Hey everybody, welcome back to Soul School Television's Black History program. Very intrinsic. We're in the part of the program now. We've already covered the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, somewhat into the 60s, and now we're heading into a very, not so much turbulent time, although we had the assassination of Dr. King like in 68, but a lot of great stuff that was actually going on. Smokey Robinson was very heavy in a lot of writings, stuff like If You Can Want and all that kind of stuff. You had the Stair Steps that was actually doing stuff like with Curtime Records, the what is it, Don't Change Your Mind and different stuff. And then all of a sudden, here comes these five bad boys from Gary, Indiana. Something like that we have never ever seen. Now, anybody who has watched Soul School Television, you guys know I am the ultimate Jackson 5 fan, the ultimate Jackson 5 fan. Wrong. I got two people here that are actually on on a whole nother kind of like level. Right when you think that you're actually the one, a lot of times the universe will show you that you are not the one. You know, it's all in fun, but it's a beautiful thing. I have two very close friends of mine. One is a very serious actress, very serious person. Just getting her on the camera is a whole nother kind of thing. And then I actually have a guy here, which is a whole nother subject, that introduced me to James Brown and Danny Ray, God bless his soul. Didn't want to go to the show. I could talk about this cat all day. Calvin, you really want to go meet James Brown, don't you? Yeah, like almost like he was so over it, and he took me anyway. And please welcome to the show the one and only George Livingston and Linda Hamilton Livingston. That middle name I have to acknowledge because the Hamilton family, it's a real deep thing. Pacific Jazz Records, Bernie Hamilton, Starsky, and I could just go on and on. Thank you for helping me do this. Welcome to the show. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure. Shoot, just to get you up here. I'm telling you, I had to sucker her into coming back up here because she's done movies and everything, but she really, no ego, just absolutely same person as what she was before, but probably more humble and more laid back than before. But I knew once she saw those Jackson 5 Ebony magazines and stuff I had up, and she saw the board game, the cereal boxes, I was like, yeah, I was saying to myself, it's just a matter of time. Now, for you, how did you first, was it the Hollywood Palace, or did you see them in a magazine or something?
No, actually, it was the song that got me, and I was always in kids.
No, which one?
Hold on, it was I Want You Back. And as soon as I heard him say, ooh, ooh, baby, yeah, I knew that just struck me as, I love that song. But the first time I actually saw them was on American Bandstand.
Okay, so I Want You Back, you guys, for the benefit we know, but for the benefit of the youngsters who may not know, that dropped in October of '69, and then they actually premiered on American Bandstand. There were a couple other shows, like the Andy Williams and Hollywood Palace, but Bandstand was February 1970.
Right.
So that was the first time that you actually...
That was the first time. I don't think I had access to the media, guides and stuff like that to know that they were coming on the other shows. And I was actually, had to go down to a friend's house, and you might know her. Her name is Gail Modro.
Grand Central Station?
Yep.
Okay.
She was a friend of mine. We went to high school together. And
back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was my first band I was ever in, was with Gail.
Also, she's a very accomplished drummer also as well, just so so she's a jack and master of all trades, yes. Utility person for real.
Yeah. So we lived on Kelly Hill in Hayward, and her mom made Sly Stone's costumes for some of them. So I went down there, and that's where first time I saw the Jackson 5. Oh, man, it was awesome.
George, I gotta hit you with this one now. What was it for you? Was it the Andy Williams show? Was it the Miss Black America pageant?
First song?
Yeah, that you first. Well, actually, when did you first? Your experience from the very beginning.
It was in the Soul magazine by Ken and Regina Jones, and I just saw some fellas that were the shot that they had. They were like standing out in the shrubbery, and there really was no glamour to it, and I didn't think that much of it. And then about a week or two later, the Miss Black America pageant with
the Impressions were on that show.
The Impressions,
Stevie Wonder was on that show.
They were on the show. And here's this group called the Jackson 5. I said, oh, the Jackson 5, that's that group I saw in Soul Magazine. And they came on and...
Now, if I may ask, and I'll let you finish, were they actually on the cover of Soul, the issue you saw, or they were just like in the... Okay.
The cover was Diana Ross. No. It was a guy named O.J. Simpson who signed this big
when right after he left USC.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he had signed this big contract. And then way at the bottom it says Diana Ross discovers new group.
Oh wow, they were others.
Their names was back there, and so again seeing them on the Miss Black America pageant, I thought they were pretty cool. You know, they were doing the Isley Brothers Issue Thing, and they were dressed similar to how they are on the first I Want You Back album. So I think the next time I saw them was on, I think it was American Bandstand, because they premiered premiered ABC.
So you didn't catch the Hollywood Palace back then when he did the Hollywood Palace?
I didn't say that.
Oh, did you? Or maybe you did, and I missed it. Okay, maybe you did. Okay. That was it's such a blur because Ed Sullivan, the Hollywood Palace, they all were like literally like right on the timeline.
On the Hollywood Palace, that's when they premiered I Want You Back.
Okay.
And I remember Michael saying you could pick it up anywhere or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he was doing that a certain dance step, I'll put it that way. But then another part that really got me with them, they started off with I think Sly Stone's Simple Song, and then they did Can You Remember?
Delphonics song.
The Delphonics. So everything started to grow as far as my interest.
Yeah. You know, for you youngsters, and the reason why we're spending so much time in the beginning of this, in reference to the beginning of the Five Boys from Gary, is because most of you would think Thriller and Off the Wall, but I'm telling you, that first run that they had from 69 through June of 72, and even that, the only reason why that kind of slowed up, and it did for everybody on the label, is because Barry was really starting to get into movies, Lady Sings the Blues, and what he was doing. And so I don't want to get too far ahead, but October 69, I Want You Back. February 1970, ABC, April or May was The Love You Save, and of course the album. And like right around August, here comes like I'll Be There and all this other stuff. And that run, just that first run, and that's not even going into like a little bit later on, which is, you know, Maybe Tomorrow and all this other stuff. It was a run unlike, I've not seen it to this day. I've been studying music more years I care to remember. The closest thing I've seen to like an opening beginning of that is probably Whitney around 86 and 87, but the Jackson 5, there have never been anything like that. And before I let them really get into this, just so you guys don't know, the spirit of the music competition, because you had the Beatles with Let It Be that was out, you had Sign Still Deliver, you had the Spinners with It's a Shame, you had Tears of a Clown. In other words, you had some real serious music that was out, and they were clearly the #1 group at that time. And tell me about your first experience, because they came here a few times to the Cow Palace. Mm-hmm. I didn't go to the first show.
I did. I went to the first show, but was
This was in 1970, the first time they came,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's with Rare Earth and
I
Turner.
I had second row seats in the front. I was just like in seventh heaven. I got dropped off and I had second row seats. I had to stand in the seat because all the girls just swarmed the front of the stage, you know, but it was just so awesome. I was just like in seventh heaven, like I said. But the other thing that George and I have been married for, 38, 39 years. We've been together 40. And we found out through our mutual interest in the Jacksons, that we were at the same event regarding the Jacksons. He was working at a store called Whitefront.
That's where I got this board game at a couple
that
years
right?
down the line.
At Whitefront?
At Whitefront.
Okay, well, I found out that the Jacksons were going to make an appearance at Whitefront. Okay, so I got...
Now, which store, if I may add? Cause,
the one in El Cerrito.
Okay, there's one in El Cerrito. San Francisco had one also.
Yeah,
right
no,
there.
this is the one in El Cerrito.
Okay.
So I went, and there was just a mob of girls. And I got in to see them, and there was so many girls. I worked my way up as far as I could go. I couldn't go any further because there was a
barrier.
Barrier, yeah. They have those
sure.
those things to go to the checkout stand. But I remember seeing the teal vest that Jackie wore with the fringe.
Yeah.
It was like a blur, just boom. But unbeknownst to me, he was there too. But he was working there.
You actually worked at Whitefront?
Yeah, so what had happened with me, it was the first week of the opening. They had 3 major entertainers. They had Peter Breck, who played Nick Barkley on the
Big Valley.
Oh, that's the one that's always fighting, the tough one. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's the one you don't want to fight, y'all.
Nancy Wilson, she was scheduled to be there because she was promoting a cosmetic line. And in between both was the Jackson 5. So I had heard about it. I go to work, and I'm working as a utility person, like bagging groceries and product or whatever. And I was, they kept shifting me in different areas. So they had me in the crowd. I saw the crowd just building and building. And I was in the area where the carpet was. And my supervisor came over to me and says that the Jackson 5 are here, but they don't have security. And they need you among about 6 other guys to walk them to the autograph booth. So I said, okay. So I leave going toward the warehouse where they were corralled. And I got like maybe from here to maybe that front door, and the door opened, and there's Tito, which I didn't know his name, but I see he was a Jackson 5. Then all of a sudden they all start walking out. We got together, the workers, to walk them to the autograph booth, and everything was good. What I really remember about him was that Jermaine had this beaming smile on his face. And so they were there for a little, I guess, an hour or whatever the time that they were there. And it was told that we need to get them back into the warehouse. Like I said, I just started working there, and I led them, or maybe I took the last, whatever. I was leading toward the warehouse, and I opened the door, and Michael and Marlon and this other guy and myself, we went in into wherever thinking it was the warehouse, but it was a storage closet.
He took Michael.
They hit the closet.
He took Michael and Marlon into a storage closet
because I thought I was going to take them into the warehouse.
So they were trapped.
Yeah.
Basically, because the fans were beating on the door, and knowing that the room was about the size, like from here to there, maybe. It wasn't that small of a room, but it was a storage room. So it was a guy there who I could tell he was part of their entourage. He was really cool, seeing that he said, okay, stay here with Marlon and Michael. So while I was there, I was getting autographs from my sister. Right?
Yeah.
My sister wasn't able to go. And then I remember I stuck my head out the door, and the guy who was coordinating their entourage asked me to, he said, okay, I got it clear so we could get them right through. So eventually we got them into the warehouse. But that was another challenge because they're trying to think how are they going to get them out of the store.
Okay, before you go there, okay, so I'm on the other side with all the screaming girls, right? So they pull up a limo, okay, and the limo circle in the building. I grabbed on the side view mirror and I'm running with the limo, right, running around. And then they came out and said that they're gone. Now there was another occurrence that happened and I picked up on it and I said, they're in there. And then he comes along, we get married, he tells the story. So go ahead and tell them how they left.
So what had happened, one of the workers said, well, I got a little Thunderbird. We could get them all into the Thunderbird and then we could rendezvous over at Golden Gate Fields. So that's what they did. They all packed into that. Well, before they got to that, like I said, they were so approachable, and I was getting a lot of autographs for my sister because my sister wasn't able to go. And later on, I think the worker came back and said, yeah, they rendezvoused with the limousine at Golden Gate Fields.
Right, and I saw the Thunderbird go by.
But didn't put two and two together?
No, I did.
Yeah.
Right,
oh, did
I
you?
said, oh no, they're in there. But I'm still holding on to the limo. But I could tell that they were in there. And then he confirmed it after we got together and shared the story.
Now, was that like during the first tour, like of 70, or was it 71?
Oh, yeah.
No,
70.
I'm glad. This, you know.
But I'm not sure, excuse me, I'm not sure if, was that,
I think it was before the concert.
was it
Yeah.
before the concert?
No,
I
don't know if it was the same day.
It wasn't the same date at all.
No, I'm loving.
Because let me tell you, later on, there's that book on Motown that I'm involved in. There's a man by the name of Weldon McDougall. Weldon McDougall, as you know, he's passed on, but he was a.
And for those of you guys may know, I'll let George finish. Weldon McDougall was a very instrumental guy in a whole lot of just different people's career. He was on Arctic Records with Barbara Mason. Matter of fact, he's the voice on, Yes, I'm Ready. He's been around a lot out of that Philadelphia area. Just a little history for you youngsters to know. But anyway.
Well, Weldon, he was, what had happened when the book came out about 20 years later, I gave him a call, and because I saw his credits, and just like I said, 20 years later, and he said, brother, where you calling from? I said, from the San Francisco Bay Area. And he went into detail. He said, well, I took an up-and-coming group, the Jackson 5, to this store, and this guy took me into this closet, and we had to rendezvous and this and that. I said, I was the guy who did it. He said, I don't believe it. I really thought. He said, that was like one of the most impactful, because they were popular, but they didn't really have any mate. He said, what happened in Richmond, Albany, that reshaped their security status because of that. They said they didn't realize, because we were going to shows, we saw the pandemonium, but it really wasn't to that secure purpose degree. So, and he had told me, he was just reflecting the same thing that I had experienced.
And that's something.
It's amazing.
When I met Linda, and just I meet her 20 years later, and she tells me she was there.
Yeah.
But yet and still, it was a very fruitful experience.
It's a real deep experience. There's never been anything like that.
Yeah, just like what Joe Jackson said, Black Beatles. Remember that?
Man, hey, yo, just so you know, these cereal boxes, they with the records on the back. I don't know if you guys know anything about that, but this is, boy, I tell you, there was nothing like that. We had never seen anything like that. I'm so glad you guys are sharing the experience, because when I finally got a chance to see him was like the next year after you saw him at the Cow Palace. They had on the same stuff that they had on the Going Back to Indiana.
Yeah, I was there too.
Yeah.
I was sitting up on the risers on the side of the stage.
That was a blur for me. I'll tell you what I do remember about that night. The girls were a lot of girls screaming for Jermaine.
Oh, yeah.
Because Michael was like kind of somewhat young. Let me look at Jackie. in the binoculars, but they were really screaming for Jermaine because he had a part of the show where he would do "I Found That Girl" and boy, I mean
Oh yeah,
pandemonium.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember that because everybody wanted to be that girl.
Oh God.
Oh, for sure.
And that's how,
for
excuse
sure.
me, I found out when, see, I was going to summer school, and these girls that came from going to that first show, and they came back talking. I mean, I had heard about Michael. I didn't know their names. I'm not sure if their names were on the back of the
ABC album.
album.
It's the
Their
ABC,
names
it's the
back there?
ABC
I'm not
album.
sure.
Yeah.
But I remember they were saying Jermaine this, Jermaine
Yeah, I'm
that.
telling you, man. I
He was
remember that.
Jermaine.
I'll
Jermaine
never
was
forget
Jermaine.
that.
And then he became, as people, a lot of people don't know, that he was
the first teen idol.
biggest
Yeah, oh
teen
yeah.
idol before
doubt.
Michael was.
No
Oh
doubt.
yeah, oh for sure.
Yeah, he was
Because
the
Michael
man.
was too young.
He was
You know,
too
we're
young,
talking,
yeah.
we're talking teenagers
Right,
here that are
right.
crazy.
They want them some
You know,
Jermaine.
so
right?
it was Jermaine. He was the idol.
And then,
For
like
sure.
after that first tour, the first two tours we're talking about, August was "I'll Be There," which was written by, of course, the great Willie Hutch.
Right.
That dropped, Mama's Pearl. It just seemed like it just never ever stopped. And didn't the Christmas album that came did that come after the third album? Was it the Christmas album?
I think it came out before.
No, because the third
I
album,
think.
the third album came out around August.
I don't recall.
And
but
so I can't.
I
Well,
think it came out before third
did it?
album. Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it did.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah.
Man, it was, just sitting back reminiscing on that, it was just such a blur. Because I had never seen, I can't recall anything ever happening so fast. It was almost like a tsunami, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that tidal wave on
Oh,
Hawaii
for sure.
501. It's just like you can fall in line or get ran over by
The
it.
thing about we didn't have social media like we have now.
No.
I mean, just to see them, if you missed them, you missed them.
Yeah.
And now you're okay. I recorded this and that, but in those days, at the Jackson 5.
But somehow we all knew when they were going to be on TV. Whether it was for me, I didn't miss the Diana special. I didn't miss the Going Back to Indiana special. I didn't miss Flip Wilson. Boy, somehow, somewhere, I guess I had older sisters though too.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
we just never.
I
And
saw
then
half
Soul
of-
Train, man.
Yeah.
When they first
The
did
Soul
Soul
Train,
Train,
yeah.
man, that just.
So now I went to every show, except for I went to the Circle Star shows, but just once. They were there multiple days,
Well, let me
but I
ask-
went to one each year.
Okay,
they
so
came.
when they came, because 71, 72, did they come back? I mean, 70 and 71, they came to the Cow Palace in San Francisco. Did they come back in 72, like before they did the Circle Star, or?
I don't believe so. George says they were here 3 times, but I only remember 2.
Okay.
At the Cow
Countess-
Palace.
Yeah, 72,
I know that they were there in 70,
71, and 72.
72.
And then
And I
Circle Star
remember after
70.
the
Okay.
74 or whatever, I think they might have, by 74, I think that they did come back in 74 because I think there's an average, I didn't go to that show, but because I only went to the 71. I didn't go, 71 and 72. I went to those 2. I didn't go to 70. And then after 72, I hadn't seen them until about 6 years, like in 78. That was the next time I saw them. That was with Millie Jackson.
This-
At the Coliseum.
At the Coliseum.
Yeah, no, I
mind-blowing.
went to
I
the
missed
Circle
all
Star
that.
shows.
So all that.
So Circle Star was 73, 74 then, right?
Could have
Get
been.
It
I'm
Together.
not really good with the.
Yeah.
I just know that's when Janet was introduced, and she came out
Okay.
with the.
Also, that was right before they did. They went the Mae
actress?
West.
Mae West, yeah, she had that
Come up and
routine
sing
with
me sometime,
Randy.
big boy.
Yeah.
What Michael did.
Well, I had the pleasure of watching Michael play drums,
He said Michael played
and
trap drums.
he played trap
You
drums.
know
on
what? That makes sense because he's a very percussive type of dude. And ironically, when they, I don't want to lose the timeline, you guys, but since she talked about trap drums, you could hear it like when you listen to those off the wall demos a little bit later, the stuff that he was doing with the bottles and the working day and night, which would come like way later. So you seen him play drums. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I did.
And then the other thing that I don't want to leave out, because during that time period of Lady Sings the Blues and all this, the Jackson 5, like I say, was a tsunami. But they really kicked open the doors. This is something that for the Osmonds, who are already a great barbershop quartet on the Andy Williams show, They got a deal through Mike Curb's MGM Records, and Sweet and Innocent, One Bad Apple. You had the Silvers, who are also on Mike Curb's MGM Records with Fool's Paradise, Wish I Could Talk to You. The Partridge Family got a TV show. The Brady Bunch, the Silver Platters. They actually have the record. It's Black History Month, but I say all that to say the Jackson 5 really, that family act thing, had it not been for them, I don't want to leave out the stair steps, but the Jackson 5 were the ones that really cemented. They changed the game. They changed the game.
They
very
did.
much so. I mean,
They
stair
did.
steps.
That was a little bit early.
Yeah.
But the J5, they changed the game. And actually, another thing that I don't want to leave out is Right On Magazine was basically started because of them. TCB was like the official first issue, but another way in reference for the media to get the word out about J5 was, matter of fact, that issue there, that's the second issue of Right On Magazine. Had I had more time to really get with Linda, she has the first issue all the way through, but that's the second issue, and that is My Eyes Are Getting Old, December 1971. And, so when you look back at all this, it is just such a blur. You start, thinking, and even Michael's solo album, which was October of 71, the Got to Be There album, which I don't want to leave out. And that was the first time that Motown had ever given any solo artist that was still a part of a group. You had to leave a group, whether it was David Ruffin after he, was exiled from the Temps or whoever. Motown didn't do that. And Michael got the benefit of Got to Be There and a great album in itself. And that album sold so well, and we were talking about this off camera, that Got to Be There was a single, then Rockin' Robin, I Want to Be Where You Are came out in May of 72. That's all the way into, the album is out and it's still selling. And then here comes like having these write-ons because it helps with the timeline. This was during the Little Bitty Pretty One, which sold very, very well, and Looking Through the Windows era right before Ben. So that, that run, I can't say enough about that first real run that they had. I don't think in my lifetime we'll ever see it. And then finally, once they got into the Lady Sings the Blues era, they had the Skywriter LP, which was kind of, the promotion wasn't there because of the movie thing. But boy, did they come back a little bit later on with the first 45 in 73, which was Get It Together. Where were you guys' minds when Get It Together dropped?
Okay, go ahead.
Either one of y'all.
You go
Well, the first time I heard Get It Together was an advertisement of them coming to the area. And I never did hear the rotation of it. And I remember, I'm not sure if it was the Cow Palace or the Coliseum. I think it was the Cow Palace. And I heard it on the advertisement. And I said, oh man, that's when I knew the Jackson 5 had a new song out. Yeah, I don't remember hearing it like, on the playlist. I heard it in the advertisement.
I don't think Motown was ready for that, really, to be honest.
That's
because
when I first heard it.
Get It Together, when it dropped, if you guys really remember.
What year was that?
That was 73. And it was big. And then all of a sudden, here comes Dancing Machine. And really, the B-side of Dancing Machine is a cult classic in itself. It's Too Late to Change the Time. Matter of fact, their music had became very funky. A couple of the Crusaders, Joe Sample and James Gatson, just different people playing. So the music had changed, but also vocally what they were doing, there's a lot of merit in holding the background. And if you really, anybody, I love Jermaine Jackson's vocal. You can really hear him and Jackie during that period. I don't know if you guys have really caught this, like on the songs like I Am Love and Mama Got a Brand, those background vocal tracks. It wasn't just Michael. They were really, they were putting it down.
Oh, it was tight. It was tight. It was tight.
The life of the party. Remember the Jeffersons? Remember the episode of the Jeffersons and Lionel was out and he came to the house singing, "You be the life of the party." You see, now y'all got me reminiscing.
Yeah, okay. I was going to tell you, their first album, I Want You Back album, I played that so much that it turned white. Pretty much it just turned white because it just...
If I may ask, what were your favorite tracks on that album?
Oh,
the whole
I
thing?
Want You Back for sure. I learned all the songs. I loved all the songs.
See?
But I Want You Back has always been my because that's the initial song
Yeah.
that hooked me to them. So it's always going to be special. My sister had a
Who's
roommate.
Loving You was the one that got me on
Really?
that album at first. Because the
Oh
fourth,
yeah, that one. That yeah.
And-
He just was so powerful at a young age. But I was going to tell you real quick that
I love where you were at.
my sister's roommate had a little girl, and I guess she couldn't remember my name, but I was the Jackson 5 girl because I played the album so much when I was staying with my sister, and I just played it till it just pretty much turned white.
You just said something that was very powerful, and I don't want to get you out of that mode. He had the soul of a guy 25, 30
Oh, for
years old.
sure.
And you
He had
just
a
kind
powerful
of,
voice
yeah.
at a very young age. I mean, and it propelled him to the status he was before he passed. I mean, he just never left.
Now,
And he kept his head on right,
Well, Joe Jackson was key for them keep it. Either one of you can answer this. What were you guys' thoughts? Because remember, the Get It Together album jammed for so long that they actually, and then of course Forever Michael and some other things were out, but the Moving Violation right before they got out of the contract, because I love that album to this day. To me, I love Moving Violation, I love Body Language, I love the remake of Holland Dozier, Holland the Supremes, Forever Came Today. What were you guys' thoughts as J5 people? Just really being into them. Any thoughts about that particular time period? Were you thinking about, have you moved on musically to other people? Because there was a lot of just, the Commodores were hot, was slippery when it's wet, and just different stuff.
For me, I was just a diehard Jackson fan. I don't retain dates and stuff like that, and the names of albums. You put the album on, and I can sing it.
Yeah.
Can't sing it without the album, but I can sing it with the album. I know all the songs, so it was just moving with them.
Yeah.
And a true fan. I had all the albums, waited for them to come out.
You and George gave me a very powerful story, because that album cover was always hypnotic to me, and they told me that they actually went to 3rd and Sycamore. If you look at the Moving Violation, you guys want to talk about that before we finish up? Either one of you?
You asking about, my fanship had kind of diminished by that time.
Okay.
And I would watch them, but I really wasn't that gung ho over. But yet and still, I start seeing this a transition. Well, with them, like I said, it was like a good 6 years before I saw them again. And when I connected with Linda in the late 70s, that's when I started to go back into what I used to listen to. I mean, what I missed, but I was still a fan. But like you said, that earlier days of the 70s, I mean, it was just really phenomenal. We're seeing a group that were in the same age bracket that I was at, and seeing the reaction of people that I didn't know that reacted to them. But I kind of got away and got into other things, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I was going to show you this. There was a lot of things that happened, before I met George and then after, but I had the pleasure of getting this. And what?
Is that Michael's autograph?
This is Michael's autograph.
Hey, you guys.
You can see his signature MJ. That was at Leopold Records.
You know what's funny? She thinks she's getting this back.
Yeah, I'm getting it back.
She really, they gonna both get beat down. I don't care about her husband. She really thinks she's getting this back.
You can have this one. You have this one. That's George Foreman. I'll take it.
She really thinks she's getting it.
So
I'm gonna do the right thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So the other really awesome things. I went to a local musician here, Michael McGlory. I went to his wedding with a friend of mine, and the girl he married.
The old guy?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I mentioned it earlier in the show, but he wrote Castles of Sand on that Frontiers album, which is my favorite song on that album. Castles of Sand is bad. People, I'm gonna let her finish. Stevie Wonder gets credit for resurrecting Jermaine's career with Let's Get Serious, but Jermaine has some real bad stuff. That the album with Let's Go Dancing, but My Touch of Madness, but Castles of Sand. This is a Bay Area thing because I guess he's from Oakland or whatever it may be. I think Ronnie Stewart told me he grew up with them, but every time that song is hypnotic from the keyboards to. And Jermaine as a vocalist, he's a monster anyway.
Yeah, well, you know, he's still going strong, but
you actually know him?
I knew him, and I have a very good friend, David Daniels, who we went to his wedding. He married a girl named Angela. Her brother was an actor named George Spell, and I know he played in a Bonanza or something. Was it Bonanza?
He played in that movie with Bill Cosby called
Bill
Man
Cosby.
and Boy.
Yeah. So anyway, she found out I was a Jackson fan, so she actually showed me where the Havenhurst house was. And that's how I found out where it was. So when George and I hooked up, I said, I'm going to show you where Michael Jackson lives. And, you know, we went out there. And I actually got pictures in my phone, but I probably couldn't find them. George met one of the neighbors.
You lucky to get the. Don't show me the pictures.
Wait. George met one of the neighbors, and they actually walked down the driveway and knocked on the door.
I told you that story before.
Yeah. And I have pictures of it, and the nice thing is that we have pictures of what the house looked like. Most people know the house as it looks now. Michael tore it down and remodeled it, but we have pictures of
really
the original house. It's just it's not a real good view, but yeah. So.
You know, one of the other things that I want to get into, which really I thought set the pathway. How are we looking? Because I know you guys
got 3 minutes.
You've got about 3 minutes before we got to wrap it up. Linda's an actor, so she's always real busy. She's been in a multitude of just different movies. So these people that I'm bringing on set, I'm really kind of like lucky to get them up here, especially when you're not paying people in their big time. But with big time, with no ego.
I actually pride myself with the fact that I'm a musician, an author, and an actor. So I've got kind of like in all three right now.
Yeah, because I know this is a little bit off the timeline, but you actually, I would find out later that you played with Pebbles.
I did. When she was just starting out. It was
Wow.
it was at Ivy's. And,
Wow.
She came in and sang a couple of songs, and I was in the band.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ivy's in Oakland?
Yeah, and
that's matter of fact, that's where Felipe went past on stage,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
the great lead singer, the Spinners.
Yeah, I think the weekend before that, our band auditioned for Jeannie Tracy, and Harvey Fuqua and Nancy Pitts.
Harvey Fuqua of the Moonglows, he used to own Tri-Fi Records.
Yep.
That's what Girls Are Made For, the Spinners, all of that stuff. Matter of fact, when Berry Gordy bought Tri-Fi Records from Harvey Fuqua, he got Marvin Gaye, who was the Spinners drummer. This was like around 61. Mm-hmm. He got Junior Walker from that label, and he had got the Spinners. Wow, you keep her some real, before we get out, I'm gonna let both of you have a final word before we get out of here, but I've been knowing you guys, both of you, for many years. I've been well aware of what George is, but I never knew that you kept that kind of company like that.
Well, yeah, here and there. When I first started out, I hung around a lot with Sheila E. and, went to as many of her performances as I could. And, and I have the pleasure of saying, like, I was around when Coke Escovedo was alive and, hung out with him sometimes. And, so just over the years, anytime I have the opportunity to hobnob with someone who's doing what I'm doing and someone I want to look at and watch, how they do their craft, I'll jump at it.
Wow. A final thought, George, before actually
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and it's just a good reflection of my youth and my pre-adult days of my fanship. You know, I was very fortunate to have those kind of experiences, and thank you for having us on.
For George Livingston, for Linda Hamilton Livingston, we're going to take a really, really quick break and we'll be back. You're watching Vallejo Community Access Television, Xfinity, Channel 27, UVerse Channel 99, and we'll be right back.